see. Follow you in the.
Close this, yeah, for you. Okay, so yesterday we started a lot of twos that are fours, right? So twos that are fours was Shavuos was two that's four, and Yedias Hatuma two that's four, and the Gemara is going to speak out each one what's two and what's four. And we did Maros Negayim is two that it's four. So now we know that for a korban shogeg, a korban chatas, which is brought for doing something b'shogeg, shogeg means you did it inadvertently. What it means is that you have to have a lapse. So you have to know that it's wrong. Well, we'll see three examples of it, but you have to have a forgetfulness, a kind of lapse in the middle. So now, the topic of the mission is really going to be for all the different permutations of these cases, what atones for what. So let's see. Hopefully it'll become more clear. It's a very long Mishnah. Each part of the Mishnah will be spoken out in the next 20 daf of the Gemara. So if you have a question, it's probably going to be spoken about. Let's say 6 a.m. you knew it was wrong to eat, that you were tameh. You knew you were impure. 6 p.m. you remembered you were impure. At some point in the middle, you had a lapse. The helam bein tayim. What do? You bring a korban that's called hareze ba'ola v'yored. It's a korban ola v'yored because if you are richer, you can bring an animal, and if you're poorer, you can bring a bird. So ola v'yored, depending on your financial status, it will determine what kind of offering you can bring. So now, that's one case, that you knew in the morning and at night that you were impure. In the middle, you forgot, and then you ended up eating something which you weren't supposed to eat, or walking into an area by the base of English, which you should not have walked into. That's one case. So now let's say 6 a.m. you knew you were impure, and then you walked into somewhere, or you ate something that you weren't supposed to, and now ein b'yediyah b'sof. So now you don't know. The day went, and the next day went, and the next one, and you were just totally blanked on the fact that you did something wrong. You did not remember. So now what happens? Comes Yom Kippur, and there are a number of korbanos that are brought on Yom Kippur. So for our purposes, it's going to be 3 goats. One is brought on the inner altar. One is sent off the cliff, which is the 6th parsha, and the one is brought on the outer altar. So those are the 3 seirim, the 3 goats that are brought. One is once again on the inner altar, one is on the outer altar, and one is sent off the cliff line. Yeah. So each of those are going to atone. What does it mean atone? But it means the amazing thing. Yom Kippur comes, and over this past year, you did a number of things, and you just don't remember what you did wrong. Yom Kippur, instead of getting punished for it, it will protect you from the punishment. Then once you remember you did something wrong, then you're gonna have to bring a korban for it. But it suspends your, the way Rashi understands, it suspends your punishment for you. So now, if you have a yediyah b'tchila, so 6 a.m. you knew that you were impure. You knew your bagel was kodesh. You knew the Beis HaMikdash starts here and you cannot get it. So now, then you forgot, totally forgot. So now, and you don't remember, comes Yom Kippur, Sir Hanase Bifnim, the goat that's brought on the inner altar, and Yom Kippur. You need both. That korban that's brought, and the Yom Kippur, the day itself. The day itself is a holy day, and it provides atonement, or at least it provides suspension of punishment. It's a megan and minha yisur, and it protects you from having to, pay for that aver that you did. So b'yom kippurim tola ad sheyodalo, until you remember that you did something wrong. Once you remember you did something wrong, then you bring this korban ola v'yored. That's the first case, that you knew in the beginning of the day and you just didn't know through Yom Kippur. Ein b'yediyah b'tchila aval yesh b'yediyah b'sof. So the day started and you totally had no idea that the bagel in your fridge was a holy bagel. There's a story. There's also a holy bagel. Yeah. You never knew that you yourself were impure. I mean, and then what happens that day? You go and do something. So if you're impure, you eat something, or you eat the bagel when you're not supposed to, but you had no idea. You had total. And then at the end, someone tells you, "Aval yesh b'yediyah b'sof." So, but yesh b'yediyah b'sof, you do have a yeah, you do have a right in the middle. You do have some kind of someone tells you afterwards that you did that. However, if in the middle comes Yom Kippur, so Yom Kippur, what happens? The sir hanase b'chutz, the goat that's brought on the outer altar, and the day of Yom Kippur itself, that's going to be mechaper. That's going to atone for you. Okay, the Gemara is going to ask, why can't one goat atone for both? Once the inner goat's atoning, bringing you atonement or bringing you suspension of punishment, so why can't it do the same thing for both of them? Why do you have to have two separate goats do that? Okay, fine. But that's what it is. So for the one that you did not know in the beginning of the day, that goat is going to be the outer one, the one on the outer altar, and Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur Mechaper. Shenamar, what's the verse that tells me that Yom Kippur? I think Yom Kippur is Mechaper. Shenamar milvad chatas hakippurim. So it says, the verse says that you sir izim achad lechatas milvad chatas hakippurim. Aside from the offering you bring on Yom Kippurim. So what do you see from here? You see from here that there's a chatas that's brought. The inner chatas is called the chatas Kippurim, and the pasuk compares the two to each other. So it compares the inner offering and the outer offering. Al masha zemechaper zemechaper. That which that atones for, that atones for. What does that mean? Ma hapnimi, just like the inner offering. Ein mechaper ella al davar sheyesh ba yediyah. Just like the inner goat on Yom Kippur atones for only something which you have some kind of yediyah, meaning you knew about it. You knew about it that you did something wrong. And then you totally blinked. And now it's Yom Kippur, yet it's going to protect you. It's going to suspend your punishment for you. So too, av hachitzon ein mechaper ella al davar sheyesh ba yediyah. So too, the chitzon is going to atone for something which has a yediyah, even though the yediyah is a libasof. Now, exactly, this yediyah libasof, when is it happening? After Yom Kippur? Because if it was before Yom Kippur, then you bring a korban. It's just a funny thing to me that it has to have a yediyah, but when Yom Kippur comes, you don't have any yediyah. You don't have any knowledge that you did something wrong, I think.
No, you only have the yediyah b'sof.
When? The yediyah b'sof is when? Before Yom Kippur? So then right now bring a korban. What's it saying? After what? After?
After the sun. After the hate. But it doesn't say anything about
what that awareness. When? So this Yom Kippur suspends in the fact that in the future you're going to have a yediyah? I know, but it says it only atones for things that have a yediyah. You have a knowledge of it. No, this is a knowledge only at the end.
Yeah, no, and at the end,
but how does it atone for something which hasn't happened yet? You have no yediyah b'tchila and you have a yediyah b'sof. When's the yediyah b'sof? Before Yom Kippur, after Yom Kippur? If it's before, bring a korban.
Which korban do you bring?
Well, here.
But you said you have to bring it over here. Answer.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. This is something which in the morning you had no idea that you did something wrong. And before Yom Kippur, you did find out, oh my gosh, I was impure, my bagel was impure, whatever it was. That's not enough to bring a korban, because a korban you have to have right, that was the first thing that Mishnah said. To bring a korban, you have to have a knowledge in the beginning and knowledge at the end. If you only have knowledge at the end and not knowledge in the beginning, that's not enough to bring a korban. So what happens to you? The korban on Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur itself will atone for you, like instead of your own korban. Yes, sorry. What did you say?
No, I was. I thought something else.
Oh, okay.
Well, also, if you have a yediyah in the beginning, but not the soap, you can still bring it all of your.
If you have a yediyah in the beginning,
but not the soap. In the third case,
correct.
As long as you don't have one in the beginning, then
right.
You can't bring it all of your. Then you have yediyah soap.
Yeah.
How can you didn't even know that?
Yeah, right. When you find out about it, right? No, yeah. You only bring a korban when you find out about it at the end.
Right.
Or else what do you bring a korban for?
Right.
But there you have to also have it in knowledge in the beginning.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Presumably the reason is because a shogeg means you did something inadvertently. If you never knew anything was wrong in the beginning,
Right.
and you find that afterwards, I don't know if that's called a shogeg enough to bring a korban, but Yom Kippur will atone for you. Okay, now so we have if you knew in the beginning and you knew at the end, korban olav yored. If you knew in the beginning and you didn't know at the end, inner goat atones. If you did not know in the beginning and you knew at the end, outer goat atones. The al she'ein bayadia, the ein aval she'ein bayadia lo b'tchila, the lo b'sof, nothing. You know, like probably many people, we do things inadvertently, and we don't know ever until come to Daf Yomi for Shavuot. But everyone didn't know that Shavuot is done. They don't.
You have to just assume you did something inadvertently.
Right. So al she'ein bayadia lo b'tchila lo b'sof. So what do you do then? So here comes a big discussion. Each one's going to be discussed in the Gemara. And whatever, I don't know, your Gimel, your Dal, but like this. So you have no knowledge, no knowledge at the end. What happens? So now you bring goats not only on Yom Kippur, but you bring on the holidays and you bring on Rosh Chodesh. Now the question is going to be those 3 dates: Yom Kippur, holidays, and Rosh Chodesh. Do each one of those days atone for something different? Atone for the same thing? That's the first thing to figure out. Once you figure that out, what if you missed bringing one? Something happened in between. Let's say Yom Kippur and Rosh Chodesh, so or let's say you set aside a korban for one day and you forgot to bring it. Can that be brought on Rosh Chodesh and atone for whatever Yom Kippur is supposed to atone for? Can they atone for each other? Is it interchangeable or not? So let's see. You have no knowledge, not at the end, not at the end. So what happens? Se'irei haregalim, the goats of the regalim of the holidays, of the 3 holidays, v'se'ir roshei chadashim, and every Rosh Chodesh are mechaprin. They are mechaper for you. They atone for you. That is the opinion of Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that these 4 times a year will atone for you without any knowledge in the beginning or the end. Yeah. So now, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Se'irei haregalim mechaprin. Rabbi Shimon says no. Only the chafas offerings, the goat offerings, sin offerings on the holidays, on Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, so are mechaprin. Avalo se'ir rosh chadashim, but not Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is going to be mechaper for something else. What is Rosh Chodesh going to be mechaper for? Va'alma se'ir rosh chadashim mechaprin. What are the goats for Rosh Chodesh mechaper for? They're al hatahor sha'achal es hatamei. A person who's totally pure, who goes and eats something which is tamei. So he eats kodesh, which is tamei, and once again the Gemara is going to explain this case in a week. So so for that aveira, the person is going to be get atonement. That is what Rosh Chodesh is mechaper for, according to Reb Shimon, on a person who's tahor, who eats something that's kodesh, which is impure, and I presume we're talking about a kohen. Anybody? Maybe anybody. Okay. Adam Torah, yeah, person. Okay, so to see more about that on Daf Test, that's also Rashi says. So we'll read that part of Rashi. So yeah. So okay. Rabbi Meir argues. He says no. Kol has seirin, all of the chatas offerings, kaparasan shava, their atonement is equal. Al tumas mikdash v'kadasha, everything regarding the tumah of the Beis Hamikdash. So you're tamei and you walk in, or kadasha referring to the food. You eat something which is holy when you're in a state of impurity, or the food is impure and you're not supposed to eat it. So they all atone for the same thing. Whether it's the goat on Yom Kippur, whether it's one on Rosh Chodesh, one on the holidays, they're all atoning for the same thing. And then Rashi adds, whether you have a knowledge in the beginning, no knowledge in the beginning, and yes, knowledge at the end, whether you have no knowledge and no knowledge at the end, whether the tahor person ate something kodesh which was impure, they all atone for the same thing. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Se'irei Rosh Chadashim, he argues. Se'irei Rosh Chadashim mechaprim al hatar she'achal satameh. He says that the goat of Yom Kippur is mechaper on tahor, on someone who's tahor, who eats something tameh. So that's similar to what we had with Rabbi Yehuda. V'shel regalim mechaprin al she'ein bayadia, but the holidays are mechaper not for everything, only on al she'ein b'yediyah b'tchila, al she'ein b'yediyah lo b'tchila v'lo b'sof. When you have no knowledge, not in the beginning and not in the end. So for that, the holidays are mechaper. V'shel Yom HaKippurim is mechaper al she'ein b'yediyah b'tchila, aval yesh b'yediyah b'sof. Yom Kippur atones for when you did not have any knowledge in the beginning, and you will have knowledge at the end. We're all going to learn that psukim, presumably in the Gemara. So there's just a very, very long mission. Yeah. So Amru Lo. So one second, they said to Reb Shimon, they said to him, Amru Lo, Mahu sheyikru zeh b'zeh. So right, meaning according to Rav Meir, that everything is equal. So one, if you miss bringing it on Rosh Chodesh, you can bring that same korban on Yantif because it atones for the same thing. But you, Reb Shimon, who told me that Rosh Chodesh atones for X, Yantif atones for Y, and Yom Kippur atones for Z. So are those korbanos interchangeable? Can you bring, you set aside a Rosh Chodesh offering, which was atoning for someone who's tahor, who eats something tameh. So now you want to bring that korban on Pesach. And can that korban atone for not only what it's supposed to atone for, but also what Pesach atones for?
This whole time we're talking about the chatas that the Kohanim are bringing. No, we're not talking about an individual. We're talking about
it's for an individual there.
We're not talking about that the Kohanim are bringing for the seaboard, the carbon seaboard.
Those chatas offerings are brought to atone for Jewish people who had a lapse of knowledge, right?
Right. So every time you're saying that you bring carbon, you're talking about the Kohanim bringing the carbon seaboard, carbon chatas doing that.
Presumably.
Okay, not the individual.
Right. No, they're bringing it for you because you don't know they did something wrong. Whatever you are. Yeah. Presumably. Yeah. So now, can you bring one? So can you bring one like a Rosh Chodesh offering? Can you bring him? Can you bring it on Yom Kippur? That's on a holiday.
There's a cheat sheet on the next page.
It has a chart. Yeah.
You can figure out what everybody said.
Yeah. Meaning, like the Rosh Chodesh offering only atones for according to Reb Shimon if you have someone who's tahor, who eats something tameh, who eats something which is impure. So now, can that korban be brought on Pesach, which is going to atone for somebody who has a no yediyah b'tchila and yesh yediyah b'sof? So what happens? Can you bring? Can that atone for that also, or no? So Amr Lahani tells them back, yeah, Yikravu. Yeah, you can bring it. They could be interchangeable. So Amr Lo, the rabbi said back to him, what do you mean? But Hov Ein Kapras and Shava Heya Cravens Ebrasev. Each one atones for a separate area of Tuma and Tara, of purity and impurity. So how can one be brought on a different day and atone for something else? So he says back, Amr Lam, Kulan Bayin Lechaper Al Tumas Mikdash V'Kadosh. Interesting answer. Well, they're all the same general category. They're all so you have to know like what the back and forth is, right? The Rabbanon obviously held that it has to be exactly for what it's being brought. Things also. Okay. Rabbi Shimon Yehuda Omer Mishmo. So Rabbi Shimon Yehuda said, Mishmo. Who's Mishmo in the name of Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Shimon Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Shimon. Okay. Se'irei Roshei Chadashim. So he's going to say a little bit differently. Se'irei Roshei Chadashim. So the offering you bring on Rosh Chodesh, Mechaprin al Hatahor. They atone for Hatahor Sha'achal es Hatameh, a pure person who eats something impure. Fine. That he agrees to. But now the difference is over here. Mosif on Alei and Shel Regalim. On a Yantif, on one of the 3 holidays, so it atones for that plus. Right before, Rabbi Shimon said each one atones for something different, X, Y, and Z. Here, Rosh Chodesh atones for one. On a holiday, you're atoning for that plus one more. So you're atoning for 2 things. Shel Regalim, Mosif Alehen Shel Regalim, Shemechaprin Al Tahor, She'achal Es Hatameh. On the holidays, you add the other korban that it's mechaper, it atones for someone who eats something which is impure, holiness, which holy food which is impure. The al she'ein b'yediyah lo b'tchila v'lo b'sof, and also it atones for another korban brought on the holidays for somebody who had no knowledge of the avera, not in the beginning and not at the end. Mosif alein shal Yom Kippurim. Then on Yom Kippur, not only does it atone for 1 and for 2, there's a third thing it atones for. Shein mechaper al hator shachlas atam. It atones for the pure person eating something impure. And the person who has no knowledge in the beginning and not at the end. And someone who doesn't have any knowledge in the beginning, but he does have knowledge at the end. So Yom Kippur atones for that, but it also atones for the other two. And one of the 3 holidays atones for its thing, and the Rosh Chodesh one. Rosh Chodesh only atones for it. So each one goes up gradually. So Amrullah is saying back and forth. So can you bring one offering that was set aside for let's say on Yom Kippur, and somehow you forgot or whatever it was? Can that be brought on Sukkot, or can Sukkot be brought on Rosh Chodesh? So Amar Lahan, hey, yes, it could. So Amar Lo, they said if that's true, they said to him, Im Kain you shall Yom Kippurim craven b'Rosh Chodeshim. Then you're gonna have a Yom Kippur offering that could be brought on Rosh Chodesh. So Aval Hayach shal Rosh Chodeshim craven b'Yom Kippurim the kapara she'ena shalah. So the fact that a Rosh Chodesh offering is brought, the fact that a Yom Kippur offering is brought on Rosh Chodesh is fine, because Rosh Chodesh, Yom Kippur includes that which Rosh Chodesh atones for. But a Rosh Chodesh offering, which is only atoning for one thing, how can it go and be brought on Yom Kippur and atone for everything which Yom Kippur atones for? It only atones for one thing. Yom Kippur atones for 2 more. So how could that offering be brought on Yom Kippur and atone for more than it's able to atone for? So Amar Lehen, Kulan Bayin Lechaper Al Tumas Mikdash V'Kadashim. Same answer as before, since it's in the general category of things that are pure and impure. So therefore it could atone for those. It could atone for those also. Yeah. Yeah.
So one's just getting into the minutiae, and the other one is just in generality.
Yeah, Rashi explains that let's say you lost one of the korbanos. You set it aside for Yom Kippur, and then what happened was you lost it. Betty ran away. Yeah, Betty the goat ran away. So you brought another one on Yom Kippur, and now all of a sudden comes Sukkot time, and Betty the goat comes running back, right? So or it comes that Rosh Chodesh. So now, let's see, Bobby. Male goat. Sorry,
it's a Portland goat.
It's a Portland goat, right? So that doesn't matter what it is, right? Very good. So the children here, Jared, behave. So let's say Bobby. Sorry, Bobby the goat. So now you found that korban. So now you want to know, can it be brought on Rosh Chodesh to atone for Rosh Chodesh atones for, or the Yom Kippur one's lost and now it's Rosh Chodesh, or the Rosh Chodesh one is lost and it's found later. So that's the case of why you're going to be bringing a Yom Kippur korban on a different day or a Rosh Chodesh korban on a different day. Okay. Now, once we spoke about things that atone, we're going to now expand outwards to more of a general atonement. So let's see what that means. Hopefully, most of it will be spoken about in the Gemara. And if not, well, we're not going to remember anyways what our questions were. So it's fine. What is that? Yeah, I think in a regular Mishnah, we're up to like Mishnah Ches.
Oh, really?
Like Mishnah Yomi, we're way ahead of them if they do this. Yeah, one daf is like 8 Mishnahs. Okay, 7 Mishnahs. So okay. The al Zodom too much. Now Zodom means you do things amazing. You do things advertently. So the al Zodom too much mikdash v'kadasha. So what happens to somebody who does something advertently? So you knew you were impure and you walked right in. You knew the bagel was impure and it was holy and you ate it. So the al zadun tumas mikdash v'kadasha seir hanase bifnim, the inner goat of Yom Kippur, v'yom kippurim mechaprim, and Yom Kippur itself will atone for you. Okay, what about the rest of the averos? Well, we've all been waiting for, yeah. Al shar averos shebetorah. So now this part of the Gemara is going to go through in 2 weeks. Al shar averos shebetorah hakalos v'chamuros whatever lighter averas means, whatever heavier averas mean, hazidonos v'hashkagos, advertent averas and inadvertent averas, hoda v'lo hoda, things you know about, you don't know about, asay v'lo sasay, whether it's a positive commandment or a negative commandment, krisas misas bezdin, whether it's an avera that you're liable for kares for, or you're liable for misas bezdin for capital punishment. At the end of the day, seir hamishtalech mechaper, that goat that gets thrown off the cliff, it atones for all of these. Now, really, this is really, I think, a Mishnah at the very end of Yuma that spells out exactly the details and what the different opinions are, what atones for what. So I think the Gemara is going to say that our Mishnah is only going according to one of the opinions. It's not universal. Okay, now.
Anything coming after Makos. You have apart from the Makos.
Maybe that's why this one's one after another. That's interesting.
So the obvious Makos are like this.
Oh, the Gemara is going to ask why it's coming. Yeah, hold that thought. Yeah, like for the next few months. Yeah. No. So Echad Yisraelim ve'Echad Kohanim ve'Echad Kohanim Yeshua. So now it's a cryptic line, which also the Gemara is going to explain. Rashi jumps and says right away, what's the Gemara saying? Okay, but the Gemara puts them together. There's some halacha that they're all unified. Echad Yisraelim ve'Echad Kohanim, whether you're Yisrael, you're a Kohen, or you're Echad Kohen Meshuach, the anointed Kohen, who's going to the Kohen Gadol. Yeah. So something is unified about them, and then it says, well, what's the difference? What are all their differences? So like, well, what was unified about them? Are they together or are they different? So that the Gemara is going to jump on. So then it says, Ma Bain, what's the difference between Yisraelim and Kohanim, or the Kohen Mashuach? So the difference is as follows. So what's unified about them? We'll have to see in the Gemara. But Ela Shahapar Mechaper. Now, aside from these goat offerings, the Kohen himself brings cow. He brings a cow offering too. So Hapar, he brings his cow. This is partial.
His bull. Yeah.
His bull. Sorry, not his cow. His bull. I don't know animals. Yeah, I don't know animals.
You gotta get the gender right.
Yeah, out of all things I messed up on, this is the one I need correction. Okay.
You're misgendering.
I'm misgendering. Okay. I have to go back to my usual state of mind. So Ella Shapar, a bull. Yeah, a bull is mechaper. It's a cow. A cow's a female, a bull's a male.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The bull has these things, right? Okay. So Texas, yeah.
In addition.
Yeah. So Ella Shapar mechaper ala kohanim. So al tumas make this rekadashav. So the first opinion holds that a bull, I guess a para would be a female, right? Para aduma.
Yeah.
That's how you know the difference. Oh, very good.
Par and para.
Par and para. Yeah. Two good Israeli names, yeah. So par and para. So a par is mechaper, a bull is mechaper. The bull is atones for the kohanim. For what? So specifically for the kohanim, the Kohen Gadol himself brings a bull which atones for the kohanim on their mess ups. When they walked into the base of Mikdash impure, when they ate something impure, specific bull atones for them. Specific bull atones for their mess ups. So that's for them. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kishem Shadam Ha'Seir Hanaseh Bifnim, just like our inner goat, that's Bran Yom Kippur, atones for Yisrael, Al Yisrael. In the case that we just brought, so kach dama par mechaper ala kohanim. So too, the blood of the bull atones for the kohanim and their specific tuma, their impurity of either walking into the base of Mikdash impure, or they're eating something which is impure, or they're in a state of impurity. What's called tumas Mikdash v'kadasha. That's the general term. So the kohanim have their atonement, and the rest of the Jews have their atonement. Now, kishem shevidui shel seira mishtaleach, just like the vidui, the confession of the goat that gets thrown off the cliff is mechaper al Yisrael. It atones for the Jewish people. So to kach vidui, so to the vidui will of the shelpar is mechaper ala kohanim. So to the vidui of the bull will atone for the kohanim's averos. Now, atone for what? The Rashi spells it out. It atones for the rest of their averos. So just like the bull brought by the Kohen Gadol atones for their tumas mikdash v'kadashav, impurity of the base of mikdash and the foods, so to our inner goat atones for our impurity. Just like our seira mishtaleach, the goat that gets pushed off, the confession with that goat getting pushed off atones for the rest of our averas, so through the confession of the Kohen Gadol, will atone for the Kohanim for their averas. Yeah.
Not the
Yeah, Rashi says the Elam Kapar B'Siyam Mishleach, according to his opinion, right?
Is it not the Mishnah itself?
Right,
That's
right.
what the redoing?
Yeah, and that's going to be more talk about more. You give them on the base. Yeah. So basically, everyone else come back at least for them the first pair. That's like just 2 weeks. Not so hard, yeah. Okay. So says the Gemara. I'm gonna make up some ground over here. The next we basically spoke the whole thing out yesterday, explaining the Mishnah. So Michti, let's see. Tana mimakos salik. Our Gemara, like Moshe Shmuel just pointed out. So if you're following, we finished Makos yesterday, and the next thing was Shavuos, right? So we left Makos and we started Michti. Tana mimakos salik. So we left Makos. So Ma'ishna the Tani Shavuos. So why do all of a sudden we teach Shavuos? Yeah, why is Shavuos after Makos? Interesting answer. Mishum the Tani, the very end of, not the very end, but the very end, not the very end, but the very end. Yeah, the Daf Chaf in Makos. So 3 daf from the end. It said there that you're liable for destroying part of your face and your beard. That's what it spoke about. The payas parts over here, and there's 5 parts of the beard. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chayiv al harosh shtayim. You're liable for 2 violations by taking off part of your face. Not taking off your face, taking off the hairs of your face. Yeah. So chayiv al harosh shtayim. The hairs of your face. Achas mikan. So the two parts all on the head is by the payas. The so to speak, the ends of this part of the face. Achas mikan. Yala zakein, and on the beard also shtayim. Yala zakein shtayim mikan. Actual beard is the top and the bottom. To achas milamata, this part of the beard. So and yet achas milamata. So chada the mechayv latarti. So you have one isser in the Torah not to cut off your head, your beard, and yet you're liable multiple things for it. So it's one isser to not destroy part of your face, part of your beard, and yet you're liable 2, 4. So once you taught that, so Tana Shavuos Shtayim Shein Arba. So following 1 that you're liable to, 2 that you're liable for, it taught Shavuos also 2 that you're liable for. Yeah, if you ever want to know, the Rambam in his introduction to his commentary on the Mishnayos, he goes with the entire Seder of Shas, why each one follows the other. Just if you're ever wondering, what order is going on over here? Everything is exact. There's no random. There's no random. It's exactly in order the way it's supposed to be. So okay, now Ma'ishna hacha the tani lehula kulu, Ma'ishna gabi yitzir Shabbos u'maros negayim the lo tani lehula kulu. So if you see the Mishnah, it mentioned multiple categories of 2s that are 4s. So the first one was knowledge of Tumah, and that was spoken at length. That was this whole long Mishnah. And then it talked about 2 that are 4 in terms of Shabbos, and 2 that are 4 in terms of the Negayim, the Tzaras that one receives. So that was also 2 that's 4, but it didn't speak it out at all. It only spoke out the first one. So Ma'ishna Hacha the Tani Lahu Lekulu, it spoke it all out. Ma'ishna Gabi Yitzia Shabbos Umaris Negayim, the Lo Tani Lahu Lekulu. It didn't spell it out. So yeah. So Omri Shavuos v'Yedias Hatuma. Yeah. So Omri Shavuos v'Yedias Hatuma the Gabi Adadik Sivan. Shavuos, so vows, oaths, and Yedias Hatuma are written next to each other. V'Damina Hadadi, and they are similar to each other, so that they both bring a korban ola v'yored. They have that similarity. So therefore, tani lehu gabi hadadi. They taught them next to each other. The aidi the tani tarti, and once it taught those 2, tana kulu. It taught the rest of them also. So sorry. So the question was, sorry, I messed up the question of the Gemara. My bad. Back up for a second. How come over here it spells it all out? Shavuos, Yedias Tumah, Shabbos, and Negayim. But when it comes to Shabbos, and when Mesechus Shabbos, yeah, sorry, Mesechus Shabbos. What she's here?
Yeah.
No, she's in Kaddish for mother. Yeah. So She's the treasurer. Yeah. $141 billion. She gets a divya. You better become her friend soon. Yeah. So sorry. The question is like this: in Mesechus Shabbos and Mesechus Negayim, it doesn't spell out Shavuos and Yedias Atuma, two that are four. But all of a sudden, in Mesechus Shavuos, when it spells out two that are four, it spells all four categories out. So why does it spell all four twos that are fours? But in Shabbos and in Negayim, it does not spell out all the twos that are fours. That the Gemara says, well, Shavuos and Yedias Atuma are similar, so they are written next to each other, and for both of them, you bring a korban ola v'yored. So those two were taught together. Now, once you taught already two, you'll teach other two also. Mishnayos were written, either to be memorized to be easily memorized at least. So this, if once you have two that are similar, you put the other two also. That's why they're there. Now, Pasach b'Shavuos. This was mentioned before. I messed up. Yeah, Pasach b'Shavuos mefarish Yedias Atuma. So you opened up with Shavuos, right? It says Shavuos in the box. Shtayim shein arba. But then you said Yedias Atuma Shtayim shein arba, and then you spelled out Yedias Atuma, and you didn't spell out Shavuos. What are the two that are four by Shavuos? So says the Gemara. Aidi dezutron milayo. Yedias Atuma. It's not so long. It's only the first two chapters of Shavuos out of 7. So pasuk and shari lehu. It taught it to be like freed from it, like to be released from it. The hadar tani Shavuos and the fish, and then we'll get to all the Shavuos. See the next 5 chapters in Shavuos. That's much more. There are so many more details to Shavuos. So therefore, it'll teach you afterwards. So meaning the Gemara understands that the order should have been A B, right? Shavuos Tuma. You should start with Shavuos and then teach Tuma. But instead, you start off the Mishnah Shavuos and Tuma, and then you only explain Tuma. You went to Tuma. Why'd you start with Tuma? And the Gemara understands that A B would be a more proper format in the Mishnayos. To see if it holds true in all the Mishnayos, it'd be interesting to know. So to that it says, well, it just taught the one that's easier, that's shorter, less details first, and then we'll get to the longer thing after. Okay. So what are all these twos that are fours? So Shavuos Shtayim Shehin Arba, Shtayim Sha'ochel V'Shalo Ochel. So I will eat, a guy makes a vow, I will eat pizza, or I will not eat pizza. So in the future. Shehin Arba, which are really 4, because there's 2 more that are included. I ate pizza, achalti, V'Shalo achalti, and I did not eat pizza. So those are 2 that are explicit in the Torah, the ones that are in the future. It says, and 2 that are in the past are derived through exposition, through derivation. Yeah. Yedias Atuma, Shtayim Shein Arba. What's the Yedias Atuma? There are 2 that are 4. So Shtayim is Yedias Tumas Kodesh, the Yedias Tumas Mikdash. Those are 2 that are related to the person himself. You are impure. You didn't realize that you're tamei and you ate something kodesh. You didn't realize that you're tamei and you walked into the base of mikdash. Shehein Arba is kodesh umikdash. Kodesh meaning you forgot that the bagel was kodesh. You knew that you were fine, but you forgot that the bagel was kodesh, or you forgot that this area that you're walking into, you forgot that area is holy. So the 2 that are explicit are about the person. You are tamei, and therefore you forgot that you can't eat that, or you forgot you can't walk in. The 2 that are derived are going to be on the object. The base of Mikdash, you forgot that area is Tameh, or you forgot that area is Kodesh, or you forgot that the bagel is Kodesh.
So every time saying 2 that are 4, 2 are more explicit in the Psukim.
Or explicit in the Psukim.
And then the other 2 are
Torah
just derived from the
Yeah.
And that's always when you have time Shem Arba?
I don't know. In this case.
Okay.
These time Shem Arba. Yeah. So they're all biblical. What exactly the nafkamina, if it's explicit in the Torah, or if it's going to be very little. Maybe it's semantics. Sometimes the Rambam will call things that are derived, Torah Shabbat Peh, a different name. A divrei sofrim in 1 or 2 situations. I don't know what exactly the punishment is going to be. The punishment is going to be the same. I don't know. Right. Yeah. So we have to see. Fine. So Yetzias Shabbos. So now Yetzias Shabbos. In Shabbos there are 2 things. there's something called a hotza'ah and something called a hachnasa. And it's very interesting. Hotza'ah is you're taking out from a private domain to a public domain, and hachnasa is you're bringing in from a public domain to a private domain. And it's interesting because you would have thought they're all learned out from the same place, but the Gemara is another limud, another place where it learns out hachnasa. You're just bringing it from one domain to the other. Well, it's not true, because then you wouldn't need another pasuk to teach you that. You just learn everything out from hotzah, which is interesting in terms of conceptually what the difference should be between bringing from private to public, public to private. To us, it seems the same, but the Gemara needs another source to teach you hachnasa to bring in. Anyways, so what are those two? So now the two that are going to be explicit are the two that are bringing from a private domain to a public domain. So either the way the Mishnah Shabbos has to mean, it's an ani and a balabayis. That's the example that it gives. But let's say a person's inside the house and they're giving something to somebody in a public domain, or the guy's in the public domain and he's taking something from the private domain and taking it out. Those are both hotza'ah. Hachnasa is going to be the opposite. You're inside and you're taking something from the outside in, or you're outside and you're putting something in. Those are Yechia Shabbos Shtayim Shein Arba. Shtayim Hotzah Da'ani V'Hotzah the Balabayis. Whether the Balabayis is the one that's giving it to the poor person. It doesn't have to be a poor person or not a poor. Just that's the example the Mishnah gives. Or the poor person is removing it from the house of the Balabayis. Shehein Arba, which are four. Hachnasa Da'ani V'Hachnasa the Balabayis. The ani is one of them is putting it into the private domain, and one of them is pulling it into the private domain. Those are both called hachnasa. The ani v'hachnasa the balbais. Maros negayim, the tsaras, different maros, different kinds of tsaras. Shnai, what is that? Colorings. Okay, colorings. We'll go with that. Yeah. So if you have any better ideas, yeah. So Shnaim Shein Arba. They're colorings, okay. So we even have a Masorah from Jared for it, okay. So from Moshe Shmuel to Jared to me, mamash, yeah. So Mars and Shnaim Shein Arba, two that are four. Shnaim are Se'es Ubaharis. Shein Arba is Se'es V'Toldasa. Se'es is one kind of coloring, which it's Tolda. Tolda we have by Bava Kama and Avina Tolda. Right, the primary category and the derivative, and we also have by Shabbos and Avina Tolda. So here it's gonna be a little complicated in the Gemara, but it's gonna be a similar thing. You have the main category and its derivative. So I don't know, giving a wild example, but let's say you have what you for sure know is blue, and you have like a derivative of blue. That's also something like that. We'll see more what kind of whites there are, different shades of So that's Se'esu Beharis. Shein Arba is Se'es is one category, V'Toldasa. And then Baheres, V'Toldas, and a Baheres, and its subcategory of Toldasa. That's going to be a whole to do in the Gemara. So, okay, well, I guess we'll start the question and then we'll have to continue tomorrow. Money Masnisim, says the Gemara, who's our Mishnah like? Lo Rabbi Shmuel, lo Rabbi Akiva. We're going to see Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva seem to argue with our Mishnah, and the Gemara has a difficulty with that because it wants to be like one of these opinions. So if our Mishnah is Rabbi Yishmael, when it comes to vows, Shavuos, you're only liable for the future ones. Only I will not eat or I will eat, but you're not liable for I did not eat or I did eat. And our Mishnah says that you are liable for that's two that are four. The added two are the ones that you're liable for in the past. So it can't be Rabbi Yishmael. And Rabbi Akiva, if the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva, I have another problem. You're liable if you forget that you're tameh and you go and you eat the food when you're not supposed to. But that you forgot that it's the base of Mikdash area, that he said you're not liable for. And our Mishnah says that you are liable for tumas Mikdash v'kadasha, for liability when you walk into the base of Mikdash, and for when you walk into the base of Mikdash without realizing that you're tumah, that you are tummy, that you are impure. So either way, we're stuck. If it's Rabbi Shmuel, we're stuck. If it's Rabbi Akiva, we're stuck. And the Gemara is going to try to answer for each one of them. Yeah.
When Rabbi Shmuel says, ayat level, he means